Good evening. It's Joyful Christian Hermit. Well, I don't know. I'm not coughing as bad as I was last night. Had a fit earlier today, but last night, did I try it the night before? I found I had some of this. I had gotten it on sale maybe a couple years ago, but it's not outdated yet, just about. But I have a swig of this at night. Helps me sleep more, but I think it helps burn my throat sort of raw, helps sort of burn that. Whatever. I'm trying all I can to get better. And it's a week ago I was feeling much better, but relapsed from my little head hole wall project. So I'm been asked to run a little errand tomorrow for someone very close by. So I'll attempt that, but that I have no energy. And I've been praying. I tell the little dogs at night to say a prayer for their old lady because they've been real troopers here, being here on the bed or down on the floor right beside me. And I take them out on their leashes, but I can't be out long. I can't stand up long. I'm just wasted, wiped out. So we'll see. I'm hoping Monday to get those blood tests. Anyway, today is a conversion of St. Paul. I realized it was, how many years ago today that I did my first soup deliveries. Well, actually, I did them on Sunday. It would have been tomorrow. So the Feast of St. Paul that year, I think, was on a Monday. But I made a hamburger soup that I used to make that was tasty. And I called it the Conversion of St. Paul hamburger soup. And I had some kind of muffins, maybe cornmeal muffins to go with it, and maybe a cookie or some kind of fruit. And I delivered to 13 people the first time. My son drove, and then I'd walk up. I used containers from my house, quart jars and plastic, snap lock containers to deliver the soups in. And once the soup kitchen got really organized, we had delivery, big coolers, keep stuff hot, keep stuff cold, and styrofoam, the quarts with the lids for the soup, and some man built inserts into the coolers, these big coolers that the soup containers would fit right down in so they wouldn't spill. But it takes me back. That would have been in 1998. So this is 25. What would that be? 22. No, I don't know how many years ago. Anyway, 25 and 2, 27 years ago would have been. But so I found this writing by St. John Chrysostom. He's late 4th century, latter half of the 300s. What he wrote about the greatness of St. Paul. And as a Protestant, I never was fond of St. Paul. He sort of bothered me. And even all through my Protestant years, and then into my Catholic years, after maybe 2 or 3 years as a Catholic, I started understanding why St. Paul bothered me. He was just so gung-ho and zealous and push, and always keep going, rah. And I realized that he reminded me a bit of myself. That, just pushy and, out there. And when I realized that, I could like him better. Not that I like myself or those habits, but I like the good aspects of him that aren't like me, so that I could try to be more like him. But the annoying parts, I realized, was because it was reminding me of my annoying parts. And he's not annoying to anyone else. I mean, goodness, he's a saint. But I really enjoy his epistles now. I still don't think that he wrote the book of Hebrews, or the letter to the Hebrews, I mean, unless he was in some kind of a mystical state when he wrote them, because it's such a different feel. It's so mystical. Hebrews is so mystical, so spiritual. And Paul is a shaker and a mover, but he also is very into, he grasps God very much. So now these are the ways that aren't like me, but I'm striving. But I've made my friendship with him, and named that soup after him. So I think maybe they still cook it. I don't know. It's in the cookbook we made. I made a cookbook for them to give out to all the recipients. I did over 200 cookbooks. So that was fun. Everything was named for a saint, and we always had scriptures on every message that went out. That was sort of an inspiration I had at my home when I started out from my home. So anyway, here's what St. John Chrysostom writes in praise of St. Paul. Paul, more than anyone else, has shown us what man really is, and in what our nobility consists, and of what virtue this particular animal is capable, us. Each day, and this is what I like about him, that isn't like me, but just aspects of his personality reminded him of me that were, his zeal and stuff, and sort of the rah-rah. I can get that way. Goodness, I'm getting messages right and left. And I don't need to answer them or anything. I wish they would just stop. The phone keeps repeating these things. You can hear it. Okay, so this is what is said. Each day St. Paul aimed ever higher. Each day he rose up with greater ardor and faced with new eagerness the dangers that threatened him. He summed up his attitude in the words, I forget what is behind me and push on to what lies ahead. When he saw death imminent, he bade others share his joy. Rejoice and be glad with me. And when danger and injustice and abuse threatened, he said, I am content with weakness, mistreatment, and persecution. These he called the weapons of righteousness, thus telling us that he derived immense profit from them. Thus, amid the traps set for him by his enemies, with exultant heart, he turned their every attack into a victory for himself. Constantly beaten, abused, and cursed, he boasted of it as though he were celebrating a triumphal procession and taking trophies home, and offered thanks to God for it all. Thanks be to God who is always victorious in us. This is why he was far more eager for the shameful abuse that his zeal in preaching brought upon him than we are for most pleasing honors, more eager for death than we are for life, for poverty than we are for wealth. He yearned for toil far more than others yearn for rest after toil. The one thing he feared, indeed dreaded, was to offend God. Nothing else could sway him. Therefore, the only thing he really wanted was always to please God. So I'm going to try all the more to ask St. Paul to help me along, help me buck up, get the gumption, girl, old lady, keep going, praise God for the illness, for the relapse. Well, it's given me more to offer in suffering, more to offer as prayer suffering, and it has given me more time to do a few more videos that help focus me. They help focus me. In fact, the past one I did talking about Diego de Estella, who was a mystic, ascetic theologian, plus he was, for a time period, Teresa of Avila's spiritual director. That's why I got the book, only because of the author. I recognized the name as someone who was connected with her. But now I'm really excited about it for the idea of ways to love God and ways that God shows his love to us. I'm going to start looking for those ways. Well, one way is giving us people like St. Paul as a role model and as a friend. He's alive. He's in here right now. I was just talking about him, and he's been my friend. He probably got a kick out of me naming that tasty hamburger soup after him. And I'm going to ask him to help me push through all the more to be pleasing to God and to get going, to not be discouraged, because I'm very, very weak now from being sick over 5 weeks. Really zap sick. I had chills again today. So something's working on me, and it will require, to get better, I'll have to build back up again. Over and over and over it goes. And St. Paul, though, would not have been discouraged. He just gets up and gets going again and again and again, no matter what happens. Like, I didn't take persecutions well, but he did. And his writing is strong, clear. But this is the other thing. His long sentences. He goes on. And he can get off topic too, and then weave back around. And I do that. It's annoying. So, but that's one of the ways my writing, my emails and text messages. But, in some of Paul's epistles, it's like that. You could practically take them apart and you could make them into like verses. Take one sentence and you'd have a whole poem of many stanzas. Many stanzas, 2-line stanzas of his writing. And you practically have to read it like that. Chop it into chunks, because he has these lengthy sentences, clauses and phrases all put together. And so, but he's a great writer, a great soul, great teacher, a great lover of Christ, and how he felt such remorse. But back to Diego Estella, with how he liked people, I don't know if I have the book handy here, how he liked, felt that all of us can be contemplatives. That's one of the 2 last little sections in that little book of the thoughts of Teresa of Avila. There were 2 little sections left that I was going to read or talk about. One is contemplation, and the other one, maybe it was meditation or something. But I'll do the one on contemplation, because we talked about it in the previous video, that everyone can learn to contemplate. Well, St. Paul did, obviously. But the thing about St. Paul is that he was very active. He was a active works of mercy person in his life. And I can't be, because of my body. I can't be physical like he was. And I think way back I kind of resented that early on. That was when I wouldn't watch any news or anything. I didn't want to see people on TV. Back then we had TVs and videos. I didn't want to see people walking and not appreciating that they didn't have pain with every step they took, every breath they took. It just was too much of a harsh reminder early on to what I had to adapt to. So, and Paul was very active. So then I gravitated more to the ones who weren't so active and got into reading of books of saints and others. Well, especially after I became Catholic, I became aware of saints, but like that Amy Carmichael I mentioned, who was handicapped, disabled, and how she wrote letters to people. I started, finding things I could do that wasn't so active, but could do for others. It's critical to get the mind off self, no matter if we're suffering or not. Keep the mind off self and on God and on love of others. And by that, we will find our own way through. Not our own way, but God will lead us through acts of mercy and love for others. So somebody had texted me who had been away for a while and was going to come see me. I texted back, no. Yeah, she lives around the corner, an elderly woman. And I said, I'm too sick, coughing too much, don't want her to get this, and don't need any food, because I know she would do all that, and I'm got so much, and I don't have much appetite. I keep eating bowls of fruit salad, oranges and apples, and a little bit of pineapple or other fresh fruit, grapefruit. Last night I ate a whole pink grapefruit, stuffed myself with it, trying anything to shove this sickness out, this cold or whatever it is. So, anyway, yeah, I'll do the content, but she didn't come. But I wrote back, I said, but give me an update on your family. She's got children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and a son who is very, very ill with COPD, who lives in another country. And so I could have updates so I can be praying for them. Because that also, it seems selfish at first, it seems selfish that I would pray for others, knowing that it was helping me take my mind off my own suffering. But, at least I was being honest with myself and honest with God, that it was self-serving also to pray. It was medicine for me to pray. But God didn't mind. He knew I had to learn somehow a way to get away from the pain, the constant pain. So prayer had, even way before I became Catholic and before I was a hermit, prayer became a very important part. And now that I don't need to be seeking things to do to stay away from the pain, it's automatic now. It just happens. I'm so out of my body a lot, but prayer still is very, very important because it's pleasing to God for one thing, but it's an act of love. It's what's called a spiritual work of mercy. If we can't do corporal works of mercy, meaning active, a lot with our bodies or outgoing and doing for others, like making food to take to someone who's ill, but actually there's a lot of action we can do when we're disabled by not just praying, not just the spiritual, but like I said, sending positive texts or emails, or people still like to get mail, older people especially. So I have a card to send to my aunt who's 101 and in a nursing home, and things like that. Try to cheer people up who I can't imagine living that long. But thankfully, she hasn't been chair or bedbound for a while, for that long. She's had a very blessed life physically, but she's had her sufferings, terrible sufferings in her life. But she overcame, strong Christian and all. So, anyway, got things planned ahead to do, but this I just wanted to share about St. Paul that is very inspiring, I think. Maybe I'll try to write this out in the description. I'll just write it out. I think it bears looking at instead of just hearing it being read. Also, you can refer to it and learn from St. Paul how to proceed. He's a good one. God bless his real presence in us. And much love to you all. Remember, we're always striving to learn love, God's kind of love.